The large intersection where Grandview, Delhi, and Grace all meet has long caused headaches for Dubuque drivers. A nearby school, hospital, various healthcare offices, and a thriving retail community can cause numerous traffic backups, especially at peak times. The City of Dubuque has identified this intersection as being ideal for a roundabout as a way to improve both traffic flow and safety. I'm Randy Gale, and with me today to talk about Dubuque's first roundabout is Nate Kiefer from the City of Dubuque Engineering Department and Ben Wilkinson from GHD, a consulting firm in Madison that specializes in roundabout implementation. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Okay, well, Nate, let's start with you. Why will a roundabout improve this intersection?
Well, it'll improve the intersection for 5 reasons. The first reason being it'll make it safer, it'll make it more efficient. Roundabouts are a greener option, and we also have the fact that it can improve the aesthetics of the intersection.
Okay. Now, Ben, Nate said it's going to make it safer. How do roundabouts make intersections safer?
Sure. Roundabouts are generally safer because the speeds are slower at roundabouts and compared to traffic signals or other types of intersections. It's designed to slow traffic by going around the islands, and by doing that, speeds should be in the 15 to 20 mile an hour range as people enter the roundabout. And secondly, there's no right angle type of collisions that can occur because of the angle that you enter the roundabout. The circulating traffic and the entering traffic come in at an angle. So if there are crashes at the roundabout, they're usually like glancing blows that are not bad crashes. They just end up in property damage crashes. And that's the general reason that they're safer intersections.
Okay. And as we mentioned in the intro here, this is going to be done at the Grandview Avenue, Delhi Street, and Grace Street 5-way intersection. What is the project schedule for this first modern roundabout in Dubuque?
So our anticipated schedule is construction this summer after schools are out in June, and substantially complete by the end of August before school is back in. Now, substantially complete means pavement down, signage, markings, and lighting on. Fully functional intersection. And then obviously we have final completion, which will be landscaping and turf after that.
Okay. So it sounds like the majority of this is going to be happening June, July, possibly into August. What can Dubuque drivers and pedestrians expect to experience during construction?
So it'll be just like any other construction project. There will be delays. There will be detours. So the idea is to close the west half of the intersection and build the east half, and then flop that, close the east half, and build the west half. Now, the north leg of Grandview Avenue may be closed for several days just because of the roadway constraints that we have there.
Okay, so I'm sure that's one question a lot of people have is, that's a busy intersection. Is that ever going to be fully closed down for this long length of time? And it sounds like it's only going to be less than a week probably where the intersection will actually be impassable. Otherwise, there's going to be detours. And
that's correct. You'll be able to use the east-west corridor on Delhi during those times. And I also want to mention that the businesses will be accessible at all times, and at all times pedestrians will be able to travel through the construction zone.
Okay, good to know. Now, Ben, your firm has worked with a lot of different communities and probably hundreds of roundabouts around the country, really. In communities where there have not been modern roundabouts, like Dubuque, this is our first modern roundabout, how do people typically, how do drivers especially, adapt to having that first roundabout? Sure,
it is a challenge for drivers when they first encounter a roundabout because they're not used to it. Yielding is actually something that is not used that often in traffic control these days. So first of all, the drivers have to be comfortable and understand that they need to yield when they enter the roundabout. In a lot of places, there's a little bit of confusion when they first open. However, within a week or two, as drivers get used to it, the confusion generally goes away, and it becomes very, very user-friendly and efficient, and most people see the benefits very quickly after it opens.
Okay. And now, a lot of our viewers probably have probably driven through a roundabout here or there, perhaps in Mount Vernon, or there's a lot more in Wisconsin. There's one in Peosta now, so maybe they've driven through one a few times, but a lot of them probably have never navigated one as a pedestrian. So how do pedestrians navigate a roundabout?
Sure, there are crossings on each approach. In this case, we're not there will not be a crossing on North Grandview. There will be on the south side of the intersection. The other legs of the intersection will have pedestrian crossings like any other intersection with pavement markings to show the crossing, signs to show the crossing. And because there's no control, there's not a traffic signal or stop sign, not everybody's stopping. However, the slow speeds that the roundabout generates allows, and the gaps that are created because of turning traffic and things at the intersection, create gaps for the pedestrians to cross at the crosswalks. Generally, pedestrians have a pretty easy time crossing at roundabouts, especially compared to an always stop intersection where they don't know which direction the next car might be coming from. With a roundabout in this location especially, there will be just a couple places to look for cars, and then they'll be able to cross. And because of the slow nature of the vehicles, most will pause for pedestrians. There have been studies done actually that when vehicles are traveling less than 25 miles an hour, there's somewhere around an 80% rate that they'll yield for a pedestrian, whereas when they're traveling faster than that, they're much less likely to yield for a pedestrian. So that's a really good thing, and good signs so far at other roundabouts across the country.
And it's probably an appropriate time for us to remind motorists that they do have to yield to pedestrians at crosswalks. So that's how pedestrians navigate. What about bicyclists? They have a couple choices, right?
Sure. Bicyclists, because the speeds of the cars are usually around 20 to even 15 miles an hour, 15 to 20 miles an hour, a lot of the bicyclists that would use a corridor like this will be traveling at a similar speed, or the vehicles as they yield, and they'll choose to just get in the circle and use the roundabout like a vehicle would. We have lots of examples of that too, where we've seen that to be the case. We allow them, or we give them the option of getting off at the pedestrian crossings and actually going around on the sidewalks and getting out where they want to. But we've found over time that most don't. They'll just use the circle. If it's something like children or something like that, then a lot of times they're either on the sidewalk and they'll continue to use the sidewalk, or they'll get off and use the sidewalk around the roundabout.
Okay. And now, as we've said, this is our first modern roundabout, so it is something new for our community. There's been an extensive public education campaign planned and underway. Nate, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So the public outreach is basically we're trying to get information and education and input from the city council first, city staff, that would be the city departments like the fire department, public works. We'll try to reach out to the local stakeholders, being the local property owners, and then at that point we will go to the general public with a public meeting.
And this program actually is one of the examples of that public outreach, right? You know, there's a lot of information on the webpage dedicated to roundabouts, and some publications being distributed through utility bill mailings, a lot of stuff out there. So that's probably going to be most heavily done over the course of the summer while the project is completed. So this is all done in time for people to be ready to drive on that roundabout in late August, right? Now, one unique aspect of this project probably is the fact that it's a roundabout right next to a hospital. Talk a little bit about how people what should they do if they're in that roundabout driving or approaching the roundabout and there's an ambulance trying to get to the hospital?
Sure. It should really be treated as any other intersection. If you're at a stop sign or a traffic signal, when you see the lights behind you, the idea would be to clear the intersection and then move off to the right. So in this case, if you're in the circle or approaching the circle and you're right up near the yield line, the idea would be go into the circle and then go to your exit and then pull off to the right and then allow the emergency vehicle to go through. Because of the operational efficiency of the roundabout, there'll probably be a lot less congestion there when the roundabout's built than what there is there today. So it should be easier actually for the emergency vehicles to move through the intersection and have a clear intersection to move through.
Yeah. And you made a good clarification that that's if the ambulance has its lights and sirens on, that's when you need to get out of the way. There may be some traffic, just some ambulance transfers and things that in that intersection where they don't have their lights on, and then they're just another vehicle.
Correct.
Okay. I know a question some of our viewers may have is, well, how do you move snow? What happens when there's snowfall? How are the snow plows going to clear that intersection when it's a roundabout? Well, how do you deal with that instance?
Yeah, we have met with some of the Public Works drivers already, and we're going to meet with them again in the future here. But it is a little bit of a learning curve for the Public Works people. They, unlike a traditional intersection where they drive through and plow the snow off to the sides and they come around, they've got to kind of work it from the middle and then push the snow to the outside. And after a couple times, they generally find that once they get practiced a little bit, that they like it better. It usually doesn't take any longer to clear, but it also gives them a good spot for turning around. Those guys turn around a lot with their trucks when they're out plowing snow, so with a roundabout, it gives them a good place to turn around, and they can go up and down whichever streets they want from that point. So in general, they find that they like it after it's there. It may cause a little bit more work in some cases, but generally good.
And actually, this intersection right now, in its existing design, that's a lot of open pavement for them to clear, whereas actually the roundabout's probably going to reduce the amount of pavement they actually need to clear, correct?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a lot less pavement area out there to clear in the future than it is today.
Okay. And now, as part of the planning and design process for this intersection, your firm actually designed or created an animation of how this intersection is going to function. Once it's installed, maybe now would be a good time for us to take a look at that, show our viewers, and you can kind of talk us through what we're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, the animation shows a traffic volume of the major peak period of the day, which is the afternoon PM when the most vehicles are using it. So we took that hour of traffic and we have it in this video, and actually we projected it a few years to 2019 to give you an example of what this volumes will be like in 2019. But what you'll notice on the video that is really intriguing is that there's no real backups at any of the entries to the roundabout. There's no queues, there's not cars lined up like there is today, and that's just because of how efficient the roundabout will operate once it's opened. It's designed for, we look at traffic out at least 20 years when we design something like this to make sure that it'll operate efficiently, and we don't see any issues with this one for at least 20 years.
Okay. Now, Nate, in 2010, the city completed the East-West Corridor study, looking at how traffic moves from east to west and vice versa throughout the community. Are there more roundabouts in our future?
Well, the East-West Corridor study does identify or propose 3 roundabouts along University. First one at Penn and University, Pennsylvania and University, the second one at Asbury and University, and the third one at Loris and University.
Okay. So is there a timeline yet when we might see those, or is it a few years out yet? Too early to tell?
Well, what we have budgeted right now, I think in the 5-year budget is work to complete preliminary surveying and preliminary design or conceptual design.
Okay, so it could be 5 years plus before we see any more roundabouts. Okay, all right. So I'm sure another issue that you've had to take into consideration as this was considered and designed is the fact that this roundabout is going to be fairly close to Washington Middle School. There's a fair number of students that either walk through the intersection on their way to or from home or to get on the bus at the transfer point there, and senior high school is not far away either. There may be students driving through there. So what kind of outreach have you done with the schools, both Washington and Senior and any other schools in the area, so that students know how they can most safely navigate the roundabout?
Well, we have contacted the schools and have met with their principals and staff so far. And at Senior, we will have someone who will be talking with the parent-teacher organization there. And we may follow up, if they're so inclined, we may follow up with an activity with the students at an assembly which simulates roundabout capacities against stop-controlled intersection capacities. So it's kind of a learning experience. And with that, we would teach them the yielding principles that, as a driver, that Ben has already talked about. For the younger students, for the elementary students there at Washington, we would like to go and have an assembly with them also and teach them how to cross assertively. There's a certain way that pedestrians are to cross. It includes pointing in the direction that they're going to cross. So an assembly like that to help them learn how to cross. There's also a kind of a cool short 30-second video called the Roundabout Dance Song, and it teaches them to do that same thing, cross assertively. So some of that would be incorporated into those meetings.
So Ben, speaking of schools, as we said before, your firm's worked on a lot of roundabouts. Have you done any projects in the past that are in close proximity to schools?
Sure. I'm aware of at least 50 roundabouts in the United States today that are near or adjacent to schools. In fact, in Wisconsin, in Howard, Wisconsin, there's one right by the school, and they actually built more at intersections adjacent to the school after it was built because they were very happy about the slow speed environment that it created, and they actually found it to be very pedestrian friendly, so they actually built more after the first one. More locally here in Platteville, Wisconsin, they built one right next to the high school, and from everything I've heard, it operates very well. We've got lots of video out there, pedestrians crossing at that location, and they don't seem to have any trouble. So very good results near schools so far.
Okay. And we talked a little bit before about the businesses that are immediately surrounding that roundabout. There's a number of them, and their access will be maintained throughout the construction so that they'll always be open. There won't be any disruptions to business. What about once the roundabout is functioning? Have you had past projects where there's businesses immediately surrounding a roundabout? How does access work?
Yeah, actually we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the efficiency of roundabouts actually helps the businesses because no longer will you have vehicles sitting in long lines at the stop sign at the intersection. So by making it a more efficient intersection, a lot of times some of the driveways that are really close to the intersection will be easier to get in and out of. And in other places where these have been put, we found that there was some people against the roundabout a little bit before saying, well, we're going to have problems with access and things, but afterwards they've almost always said that the access has been better, the viability of their business has been better, more visibility. It's just easier. When the driving task becomes simple like it does at a roundabout, you've got more time to pay attention to the things around the roundabout rather than just worrying about which direction all of the traffic is coming from at the always stop condition.
Well, a lot of good information here, and we should probably leave our viewers with the golden rule of a roundabout, and that's as you're approaching a roundabout, preparing to go in, what's the golden rule?
To yield.
To yield. So as you're entering that roundabout, yield. Okay. Well, thank you for both being here today, and we'll direct our viewers to visit our website for some detailed videos and animations about the roundabouts and helpful materials they can download. So thank you both, and thank you for watching City Journal.